All right, we're good to go. We're good to go. Tonight we're going to begin our series on lead like Jesus or servant leadership. Lead like Jesus and servant leadership. And I hope everyone was able to get the material that I put in the chat room. I mean, in the chat box. If you didn't, let me know, and I'll try to get it to you. Okay. But we're going to talk about what I think is one of the most important courses. This is the one that I feel um, that we fail oftentimes, and that's being a servant leader, a servant leader. And so we're going to try to look at what that means. Okay, so the material that we're using is from someone I know. I don't know a real person, but I do know him a little bit. And he teaches lead like Jesus, lead like Jesus. Ken Blanchard, Phil Hodges, and another young lady wrote these together. Phil Hodges and uh, Phil Blanchard wrote the initial one, and then they followed up with this as a leader's guide. Um, the one thing I wanted to make sure that we get out of this is not something just for me personally or for you personally. It is for us to use to teach others. So the material we're using is actually a study guide that you can use for small groups, or you can use part of it in your regular service as a sermon. Okay. But I think it's important that we understand what a servant leader is and how it differs from what we normally think of leadership in a general sense. Okay, so let's get started, I guess. First, uh, who considers himself a leader in this group? Who considers himself a leader? Who considers himself a leader?
So is that a trap question?
That's a question. That's a question. Yes,
I do.
you do. Okay. All right. So why do you consider yourself a leader?
Because of my responsibilities to my family.
Okay. Okay. Who else considers himself a leader?
I,
Okay. Why?
because I serve as the associate pastor in our church.
Okay. Because you serve as a okay. Okay. Good reason. Uh, Anyone else consider yourself a leader? Anyone else consider himself a leader? No one else? No one else? About, are you a leader?
I am pastor. I'm a leader.
Okay. All righty. I just want, I mean, I just asked the question. I just wondered. All right. Well, could we argue? I'm sorry, I'm not argue that the right word. Could we agree that everyone is a leader, or do we disagree with that?
I would say loosely, yes, but in certain areas and definitions, it would be a no. But on a loose point of view, where we say um, everybody is a leader of themselves, then that could count, maybe. But when you're looking at the idea of leadership, which involves specifically leading a number of people to achieve a specific result, then not everybody is a leader. Some people are following for the achieving of that result or serving as followers in that regard.
Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting point. Interesting point. Anyone else?
I will say not everybody is a leader. For me, not everybody is a leader. Like in the Bible, we had followers and leaders. The first leader was Jesus Christ, and then the disciples, the apostles, still even during the time of the apostles and the disciples, they were followers who were just following and being led by someone. That is my point of understanding. Thank you.
Okay, okay, all right. I don't want to answer that question right now yet, but by the end of this session, remind me to ask that question again and see if the answers that y'all just gave, you still agree with. Okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay,
Okay.
now, my next question that I want to talk about now is, are leaders taught or are they born?
I think
Are
leaders
leaders taught or are they born?
they are taught.
I'm sorry, say again?
Leaders are taught.
They're taught, okay, okay, interesting. Anyone else?
I
Francis,
think both.
you think both? Okay, think both, okay,
For me, I think both. There are some who are born and some are being trained to be leaders.
okay, so some are born, some are being trained, okay. Anyone else? Francis, what do you think?
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes, yes, we hear you.
Okay, I will just first answer the previous question. I agree with my brothers on the point that some people, it's not everybody who should be leaders. Some are leaders, some are also followers, and I can also add a third category like others are helpers, those who help leaders. So those who are helping leaders, they are not leaders. So everybody is not as they explained. I agree with that point. And regarding the second question, we can see some pattern in the Old Testament. We can see that there are some leaders that even before they was born, there was, I can say, chosen by God. And there are also some other examples of people they has been trained to be leaders. We can see that like in the example of Josiah, he became a leader, and then he has been also trained to be a good leader. So that is my contribution.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone else? Well, I would want us to think about, and just think about it now, is someone a born leader, even if they are anointed by God prior to birth? Are they still a born leader? Or do they have to be taught to be the leader? Even though they may be anointed. Yes, no.
I would say yes, they still need to be anointed and trained.
Okay. All right. So give me an example, someone that you consider a follower and then someone that you consider a leader in the Bible? Please.
Moses and Aaron, not necessarily a follower, but maybe a helper.
Aaron? Did you say Aaron? Brother Perry, did you say Aaron?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay, you say Aaron was the follower, who's the leader?
No, I said Moses was a leader, but Aaron was a helper.
Oh, Aaron was a helper. So okay, I've had someone brought in this term helper. Okay, so when the children of Israel sinned against God, when they made the golden snakes, etc., who was leading them?
It was Aaron.
It was Aaron. So is Aaron a leader?
Yeah, yes, 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 please.
Oh, I just wondered. Okay. Someone else give me an example, please. Someone who's a follower and someone who's a leader.
I was thinking of Elijah and his servant.
Who? Elijah and Elisha?
Hello, Pastor.
Yeah. Elijah and Elisha?
Yes, not Elijah and Elisha, but Elijah and his servant, whom they
And
came
servant.
under,
Okay.
under attack during those times. Or whoever the servant called Elijah that the horses around, and Elijah told him not to worry.
Okay. So
I,
now you
I
said
think
Elijah or Elisha. Make sure I know which one you're saying.
Elijah.
Elijah. Okay, I want to make sure. So when Elijah was in the cave by himself and said that he was the only one, was he leading?
I think he was leading his servant by then,
Okay. Okay.
because the Bible mentioned one servant who came to him, but normally he will have some servants.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
I would like for us to think in terms of the reason why we are learning this class and going to be teaching this class to others is that everyone is a leader at some point in time.
Come again, Pastor. I didn't get your question.
Okay. No, but my point is that I think as we go through this course, I hope that we think of it as everyone being a leader, a servant leader, everyone. Now, maybe not all at the same time, but there are going to be times when everyone is going to be a leader and needs to exhibit the servant leader qualities.
Okay, I think I get it.
Okay. Now, because we're not leaders all the time. None of us are leaders all the time, or we shouldn't be. There are some times when we should not be leaders. And a good leader is not always quote unquote leader. Agreed or disagree? I want to discuss.
Agreed.
Okay.
I agree. I
Okay.
get it.
You get it?
You
Okay,
explain.
okay, okay, good. So as we go through this course, let's think not only of ourselves as leaders, but people who we work with in the church. Think of them as leaders and how we're going to prepare them to be the best leader that they can be by exemplifying what a good leader is and what we show them and what we do. Okay? Any questions there? Okay. Let's continue here. Can you see the screen? Oh, wait a minute.
Yes, we can.
Okay, want to make sure. Okay. All righty. Let's look here. Let's look at the definition of leadership. Tell me what you think a leadership is. The definition of a leader. Hello? Someone tell me what you define a leader for me, please.
For me, I think a leader is somebody who gives directions in anything that or at any capacity that he or she leads. He gives us directions and takes final decisions for such certain issues. And at any point where there is a problem, he will be leading the problem solving part of that problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All righty. So do all so part of the leader's responsibility is to direct. Is that what you're saying?
Of course. Of course.
Okay, okay, all right. Okay, we'll continue talking about that. So you see Christ as a director?
I think at some point he directed the disciples.
If you were to, you know, and if you were to look at Christ and his time here on earth, would you feel comfortable saying that Christ directed people here on earth? He directed the disciples.
Tough one now. I think it becomes a big weight now to use for him. Maybe I was taking it on little issues like while he directed them how to pray, he directed them how to do things or how to associate or relate with others. That is how I take the direction part of my understanding.
Okay. Now, and please, I want other people to participate in this conversation too. Don't leave Oval out there by himself hanging. Okay? Don't leave him out there hanging. So let's talk about it. Now, back to your directing disciples how to pray. What did the disciples say? Teach us how to pray. Did not use the term direct. Yes? No?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Most certainly, of course.
Say again?
She was teaching actually, not directing.
Right. I think that again, we want to make sure that we talk about servant leaders, servant leadership, that we understand that it is not telling people what to do.
Mm.
It is
Okay.
not telling people what to do.
Hello, Pastor Joe.
Yes.
On the thought of Jesus directing the disciples, or perhaps the whole church, can we look at perhaps the Great Commission and say that was him giving instructions on the, the the vision that we should follow, not only those disciples but even ourselves, and also include that among the things he does for the church, giving directions is also included.
You can say that. You can say that. You can say that.
Oh, all right.
Okay. But again, be careful, because sometimes we as leaders find ourselves directing, when in fact we ought not be directing all the time.
Yes, sir.
So that's why I spend the time talking about servant leaders, servant leaders. Okay, and also take the time to make sure we understand that everyone is a leader at some point in time. Just a matter of where, whether it's in their home, whether it's at work, whether it's with friends. Everybody is a leader at some point in time, or can be. And we need to understand that, and then understand what do we do after we recognize that. Things as simple as it's time to go out and have lunch. Who decides where you're gonna go eat lunch? Who makes that decision? If it's 4 or 5 of you who want to go eat lunch, who makes the decision where you're going? Is there a person generally who kind of says this is where we're going, everybody kind of flows with it?
I think the decision is made together.
Made together? Are you sure?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes, sometimes, but I think majority of the time, if it's with let's say a family, and there is a need for a tiebreaker, then let's say the father can say, okay, then since everybody doesn't know where we are going this way. But I think normally when there's an understanding that we are all in this together and there's no clear-cut idea of responsibility to anybody, then maybe it can be done together. But if there's a clear-cut responsibility that you oversee the decisions, and there seems to be a sense of indecisiveness or collision of decisions, then the person who is given the responsibility to lead can now say, okay, reviewing everything, I think we can all do this, and maybe gear everybody towards a decision.
Okay. I would suggest that point in time where someone has to make the decision, as the way you put it, that should be minimal. That should be minimal. Okay, and let me help you understand why I say that, and then we're gonna keep going here. In Robert's Rules of Orders, you have a chairperson of the committee, right? Can that chairperson vote? Can the chairperson vote?
Majority of the time, the chairperson doesn't.
Why?
He's supposed to oversee the decision making, and steer the decision making, not necessarily to take part in the decision making.
Right, right. Okay, that's the point we're trying to make here. Is it the same kind of thought pattern? Is that when it's time to go out and eat, and or whatever it is, one person should not be the person who makes the decision. But but if they do end up making the decision, they make the decision based upon what everyone else needs, not what they need, or not what they want. So everybody else's position is going to be taken in consideration before the person who is quote unquote making the final decision, if that makes sense. So I'm back to the issue of directing. Okay, is that the leader is not a director, not telling people what to do. Agreed?
Mr. Joe.
Yes.
So maybe I'm taking a question, I'm pushing a question in the light of in the face of immaturity, in the face of incapability of a certain level of reasoning. Because I remember in Galatians it says, or a hair of salvation, as long as remains a babe, is equal to a servant. And the idea is that once you are a hair, you and you do not mature, you are limited in a certain way in that sense. And also from the part of families, as much as my kids are a part of the family, because of their level of immaturity in certain aspects, I do well to literally direct them and instruct them stage by stage, step by step on certain things. When they mature to a certain age, then I tend to coach them.
How do they mature?
Because between the direction, instruction, and coaching is training.
Okay, all right. So and I would suggest you think about the thing of leadership, etc. Is that a good leader is one who knows where one starts and where one ends.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And that's not something that you may or may not be naturally born with. Also, if you talk about children, one of the things that we all know is that children make mistakes, but we've got to allow them to make mistakes too. Or they will never mature. Is that a fair statement?
It sure is. It sure is.
Okay. So I'm getting past this directing, telling people what to do, and facilitating the process, as we talked about earlier. and that's what leadership, servant leadership is not directing. It's not telling people what to do. Now, it doesn't mean that you never do it, but that should not be the primary process of telling people what to do. And some pastors get into that problem. And sometimes it's because the members force them to be in that position.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, the members sometimes they want somebody to tell them what to do, rather than them being the leaders that they are, and exhibiting that leadership. Because we define leadership as directing when it really should not be. That should not be the number one goal of the leader, is to direct. The number one goal of a leader is to build leaders. That's the number one goal, is to build leaders. Do we agree with that?
Pastor Joe, can I say that the number one objective of a leader should rather be pointed at achieving the purpose and focus of the team?
We could talk about that, but I think you're gonna find out that that's not exactly Christ-like.
Mm. Mm.
We can talk about it, but I think that's more worldly.
Exactly.
Not that we shouldn't be accomplishing things. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that, but I don't think that should be what drives us. Because you can accomplish something and hurt the individual at the same time.
Mm.
And so you haven't taught the person to be a leader.
Mimbaila.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, Mimbaila.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure that the folks from Botswana know what that means. So,
Yes, please, I understand, Pastor. Yes, please.
okay. Okay, but anyway, we want to take some time today to talk about it a little bit, okay? All
Yes,
right. Okay. Okay. So let's stop here a minute and let's do something here a minute. I'm gonna go to another screen here a minute. Hold if I can find it. Okay, let's look at this here. This is the where did it go? Where did it go? Okay, I got rid of it by mistake here. Okay, let me try this again. I made a mistake there. Okay, let's look at this again 1 minute, please. All right, the course itself. Let's make sure we understand what we're going to do during the course. I got to start it because I want to get us thinking about it now as we go through it. We're going to understand the principles used by Christ during his ministry here on earth. Okay? That's what this course is about. And we're going to use it using Ken Blanchard's book based upon the 4 H's. The 4 H's being heart, head, hand, and habit. Okay. During the course, we're going to identify and remember at minimum 4 memory verses. There are 6 of them. We're going to remember at least 4. We're going to explain and we're going to talk about it tonight. Not so with you. We're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about the 4 domains of leading like Christ. Okay. Recognizing the habits of accepting and abiding in God's love. We'll talk about it during this course. We're going to talk about connecting and reconnecting to the disciple-making mandate of Jesus. Someone mentioned that earlier. Go out and make disciples. Go out and make leaders. Same thing. All righty. We're going to identify the challenges of ministry to the heart of followers. Okay. We're going to look at the doing habits of Christ. We're going to look at the doing habits of obeying and expressing God's unconditional love. And we have the book that I sent out to everyone. There's a writing assignment we'll do, and then we got classes. Okay? The writing assignment is 2 to 3 typewritten page, identifying at minimum 3 characters in the Bible that reflect servant leadership traits, not including Christ, with scriptural references. Do I need to say that again? Hello? Do I need to say that again? Nope, we got it? Okay.
Can you please repeat again, Pastor, please?
Yes, the writing assignment. You're going to write 2 to 3 typewritten pages, okay, and identify 3 characters in the Bible that reflect servant leadership traits, excluding Christ. Christ is not one. Christ is the model we're using, and use scriptural references that demonstrate their servant leadership traits. Okay?
Yes, please.
Any questions there? That's due the 7th week of class. That's due the 7th week of class. So you don't have to worry about knowing it now, but by the time we get to 7th week, you'll know. We have a grading distributions there. Again, 25 points for the writing assignment, 75 points for the final exam. And then we have a course outline starting today, 1/9, and then going forward. This is if you hadn't seen it yet, it's there in the chat room. Any questions there?
No, please.
Any questions there? We good?
Yes, please.
All right, okay, good. Good. All righty. Again, the text that we're using is Lead Like Jesus. Lead Like Jesus. And it's written by Ken Blanchard, Phil Hodges, and Phyllis Hendry. Okay? All righty. So and you have the text there. I suggest that you start reading it. You know, a chapter a week, I mean, would do okay. But again, it says we define leadership as anytime anyone influences the thinking, behavior, or development of another. So whether you are a parent, a brother, sister, co-worker, manager, pastor, you're supposed to demonstrate these leadership qualities. Yes, no?
Agreed.
Okay. So back to what I said earlier, is that if you're going out to eat lunch, somebody's going to be kind of the focal point for making this decision. How is it made? Under what criteria is used by the leader, whoever the leader is, and how to make the decision where you're going to eat. Something as simple as that. Okay? Any questions there?
No questions.
Okay, good. All righty. Good. Now, again, this is written as you being a discussion leader. You're leading the group. The idea again is that you're going to learn how to be a servant leader, and then how you're going to teach others to be a servant leader. Because that's what it's about. And we use the term making disciples. Well, when you make a disciple, you are in fact making a servant leader, or should be making a servant leader. You don't necessarily do that because we don't always do things intentionally. But we should be intentionally teaching people how to be servant leaders. Any questions there? Now, yes, Enoch.
No questions.
No question. Okay, now I have a question for each one of you to answer. Who in your life has taken the time to teach you to be how to be a leader. Whether a servant leader or not, doesn't make any difference, but just be a leader. Who's done that?
So,
Who would you say in your life has taught you how to be a leader?
My pastor.
Yes. Your
he said
pastor?
his pastor, and I said my mentor.
Your mentor, okay.
My senior pastor.
Pastor? Okay. Anyone else? Now, did your pastor teach you to be a servant leader, or did they teach you to be a leader? Brother
If
Perry.
if I were to categorize pastor, I would say it was more of a servant leader, because the standard was like Christ.
Okay. Anyone else? Brother Kareem. Brother Kareem? Can't hear me probably. All righty. Daniel. Daniel. Okay, maybe he doesn't hear me either. Can people hear me? Oh,
I
okay,
can hear
Daniel.
you, Pastor Joe.
Okay, good. Has someone taught you to be a servant leader?
Yes. I would say, uh, yes, my pastor, as it was already said. But I think I can also learn this from my father. This is after growing up, come to realize that perhaps there were lots of sacrifices he would have to make for the sake of the family. I mean, one of the areas.
Okay, okay. All righty, good. Good. Well, I want to, again, I'm asking these questions for us to think about as we go through through the class here, and then at the end, ask yourself those same questions, and so that you can see how you can be a servant, teach someone to be a servant leader, and see if your definition of servant leader is consistent with what you thought it was day one of this class. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay, good. And again, the idea here is that you, at some point in time, you're going to be teaching people how to be servant leaders. So we want to make sure that we understand that. So there's a lot of information here on how to get started, and we won't go over that necessarily, but the information is there for you to read if you choose to. Okay. So let's go on down to let's see here. The scripture memory cards. You have the scriptures here. I ask you to memorize at least 4 of these. Okay, at least 4 of these. Okay. And you have 6 of them. Okay. And we actually memorize 4 of them. And all of them have something to do with leaders. Okay, and how we should be thinking as leaders. That's what's most important, how we should be thinking as leaders. Okay. Now, not so with you mandate. Not so with you mandate. Where does that come from? Anyone?
Pastor, I didn't get a question, please.
In the Bible, where does Christ talk about not so with you? And anyone can answer that.
The scripture that is coming to mind is not necessarily the same as you're saying, but it's more of when he was reprimanding and rebuking the sons of thunder, in the sense of they don't know the spirit that is at work in them.
Okay. Someone else. Someone else.
But I remember also it might also come with the idea of service, that whoever wants to be the leader must be greater, must be the servant, if I'm right.
Yes. Now, where does that come from? Where does that come from?
It, perhaps then it's at the same place that Pastor Perry was talking about.
Okay. Tell me.
Okay.
Tell me.
I would have to search. I would have to open my
look it up.
Bible, Pastor.
Oh, come on. You don't need the Bible for that one. Come on. Okay. I'll help you. John and James.
Is it from the Gospel of Matthew?
Yes. What did their mother ask?
When they were asking um about when Jesus ascends to the Father, if they could sit at their right, at one at his right hand, one at his left hand,
Yes. Yes. And what did Christ say?
Pastor, am I permitted to open my Bible?
I'm messing with you now. I'm messing with you now. Okay. Christ said what that who does that? Who does that? Who
He
worries
said he
about
doesn't
that?
have permission to.
Say again?
I remember that Jesus said that he doesn't have the permission to do that, if I may paraphrase it. It is the
That's
Father
correct.
who can do
That's
that.
correct. He did say that, but then he said what? That attitude was for who?
The rulers of this world.
Thank you. But not so with you. We are not supposed to be acting like other people and wanting to be served, wanting to be first. We're supposed to want to be last. Is that right? So when it says that when someone wants to be first, they need to be last. And Christ went on to say what? He came not to serve, not to be served, but to serve. So we're supposed to have the same attitude that Christ has of not wanting to be served, but to serve. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's what is not so with you mandate means. You need to make sure we understand that. That's what it means. We're not supposed to be like everyone else. Now, I'm going to pick on somebody. I have no idea about this. Daniel. Daniel,
Yes, Pastor Joe.
yeah, I have a question for you. Do y'all ever eat after church?
Please come again.
Do y'all ever eat after church? You know, have, potluck or what do you want to call it? People bring food or bring cakes or whatever, eat after church.
Yes, yes, we sometimes do have that.
And who sits at the front table?
The front table.
Yeah.
That the way we do it now is we don't have special tables. It's we have a servant's table at the back of the church, and you go and take the snacks, and you come back.
Okay. All right. Now, who goes to first? See, he don't want to answer my question. But I'll make me ask the question now.
I think Brother Daniel can pass as a lawyer.
Who eats first?
Well, the leaders do it last. I think if this is if this is the arrangement.
But in all seriousness, though, this is where sometimes members create a problem for their pastors because the members push the pastor to eat first.
Yes.
Okay, and then the pastor may initially say no. They push him, and now it gets to the point where then he expects to eat first. Okay, and if there's a special dish that somebody cooked, the pastor gets the slice first. Yes or no?
Yes.
I know. I understand. I understand it. I really do. The point I'm making is that that's inconsistent with the "not so with you" mandate. So you, as part of the leadership of the church, have to share that. And you have to have that conversation with people that's not the way it's supposed to be. And so the pastor can't expect that. Not that they should honor him and offer him to eat for. I'm not saying anything is wrong with that. But what I am saying is that when it gets to a point where it's expected, I as a pastor expect that. No one's supposed to eat until I eat. I'm supposed to be in front of the line.
That's a mouthful.
When that begins to occur, then you're missing out on the "not so with you" mandate. Everyone understands that?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the point I'm making is that it's not always the pastor who's doing it. Sometimes it's members who cause that same problem. So the pastor has to be aware of that and act accordingly. The pastor has to say, no, I'm supposed to eat last.
Okay. So Pastor Joe, you're saying in such a case, the pastor must insist on eating last.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to say that be the way all the time, 100% of the time. And if you don't, you got a problem. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that what happens sometimes is that we pastors sometimes expect things because we're pastors. And because we expect those things, then we forget that we're servants.
Mm.
And people begin to serve us rather than we serving them.
Mm.
Do we understand what I'm trying to say there, everyone? Hello? Yes? No? Don't
Yes,
understand?
please. Yes, please, I do, Pastor.
Okay, all right. So we need to know what we're doing here now. Again, it's the attitude. It's not the fact that the person may or may not eat first. You know,
Mm.
I mean, sometimes I eat first, sometimes I don't. I don't really count. I mean, I usually tell I don't. If they, my church people know I don't eat first, so they don't even ask me. Okay, but if I chance somebody that brings me a plate, yeah, I don't throw it away. I don't say no. You know, I ate it. I say thank you. But I don't
Mm.
expect anyone to do either.
Mm.
But that's back to being a servant leader. And that's why when I asked the question earlier about does someone teach you how to be a servant leader, have you watched what they do and see if they are acting as a servant? Not someone directing someone. That's not I'm talking a true servant. Okay?
Yes, please.
All right. So any questions there? Okay. Going forward, a couple of things we want to make sure that you kind of make sure you read the first chapter for next week. Okay. All right. And go from there. Okay. You see, it says what Jesus asked those who follow him to do differently as a leader. What did Jesus ask them to do? He asked them not to be served, but to serve themselves.
Mm.
But to serve themselves. Okay. That's different. That's a different mindset. That's a different mindset. Okay. All right. And that's true of where we are in making decisions. What advise you, Brother Karen, advise you, where do you want to go to eat? What's the first thing you say, Brother Karen? I ask you, where do you want to eat? What's your response?
Sorry, sir. What's your question?
Okay, the question was if someone asks you to go out and eat and they ask you where do you want to eat, what is your first response normally?
Chapati. I just answer according to what I like to eat. Maybe meat.
Yes. You answer based on what you like to eat. Wrong answer. What should you do? What do you think you should do?
What I should do?
Yeah, what should you do? Don't you think you should say, where do you want to eat?
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Back to the servant. I'm talking about the servant mentality. Is that we should be putting other people first.
Mm.
So I'm going full circle on this to back what I said earlier. If you're going out to eat lunch with 3 or 4 people, where do you decide where you're going to eat? As a leader, you should ask them, where do you want to eat? What do you like to eat? And not be concerned about what you like. put their feelings first and foremost, and yours secondary. If you do that, then you are showing true leadership. You're not directing. You're not telling people what they're going to do or where they're going to eat. Yes or no? Hello?
I really understand what you're saying, Pastor. And even as you're teaching, I'm just self-introspecting and realizing that the idea of self-leadership, servant leadership, it boils down to the little things. And we should also be aware of the little things, even the idea of letting people sit down first before you do, ensuring people are okay before you can think of yourself as a leader. And I think majority of the time we think of the high peak things, killing yourself, if dying for others and all, but I think it starts with the little things, like you're trying to draw attention to. So thank you so much, Pastor.
Thank you. But you're right. It's our day-to-day activities, how we interact with people, and people will respect our leadership when they respect us. Okay, when they know that we generally care about them, they would care about our leadership more. So when they understand that we really do care, I care where you eat lunch because I want you to have a good lunch. I want you to enjoy your lunch. Not me. I don't care one way or the other. I mean, yeah, I'm certainly I want to enjoy my lunch as well, but it's not as important as you enjoying yours. And it's something that we're supposed to be doing daily. Daily. Not one time. Okay? Any questions
Yes,
there?
please.
Any questions there?
So, Pastor, how the way you are pointing it, that there's an idea of being conscious and being intentional about it. How then do we ensure we don't cross into the field of false humility when we literally we are just saying it to appear servant-like? How do we make sure we avoid that? Because in the light of what you are saying, people might now understand the letter of it, but then how do we make sure that we don't just do it to appear of a sense of, oh, we are servant leaders in that sense, or where our actions are pointing to servant leadership, but our heart is not necessarily there in that retrospect?
I have an answer for that, but I want to hold it until next week.
Yes, please.
Okay, and I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. Okay. Earlier, I talked about the 4 H's, and I don't think I spent a lot of time on it, but there are 4 H's that we're gonna talk about in this course. One is the heart, one is the head, one is the hand, and the one is habit. And all 4 need to be aligned with Christ. Okay. So if all 4 are aligned with Christ, then that's not a problem. That's not a problem at all. But if one of those are out of line, then that can become a problem. Okay. And I think the first one we're going to talk about is the heart, because I believe that the heart is most important. Now, Kenneth Blanchard does not say that necessarily. That's me saying it. But I think all 4 are equal. But for me personally, the heart is one that lends itself to be concerned with. Okay?
Yes, please.
All right. Question from anyone else? Okay. Okay. And again, here it says the heart of why leaders lead, the head, what they think, the hands, what leaders do, and the habits of how leaders stay on track with God. Okay. So next week we're going to talk about the heart. So I want you to read the section on heart. Okay. You don't have to read the rest of it, but read the section on the heart of a leader and why
Yes,
why
please.
that's so important. Any questions there on that? Okay. All right. Let's see here. I want to make sure of a couple of things also. When you are talking about leaders, there's a couple of things that we need to make sure that we understand. One is the leaders have authority. Question: do leaders have authority?
To a certain degree,
A certain degree?
they
Okay.
they do.
Yes,
Okay.
they do.
Anyone else?
They do have authority.
They do have authority. Okay. Anyone else? Talk to me. Do you think that leaders have authority? Or about? Okay. Okay. Well, let me suggest something to you to consider. Or well, better yet, let me ask a question. Have you ever sat around in a room where decisions need to be made and somebody sits in the room and is very quiet, doesn't say anything for most of the meeting, and then they say something and everybody listens to them? Yes or no?
Yes, yes, please. I have witnessed that before.
Brother Karen? Yes or
Yes, sir.
no?
Very yes.
Okay. Now, did that person have authority? Did the person necessarily have authority?
No, please.
That's right. See, we have to understand that this servant leadership thing is not authority. It's not driven by authority. It's driven by how you act, how you function, how people see you. And back to what I said earlier, is that means that we are supposed to be a leader wherever we are, depending upon what the circumstances are. So authority does not necessarily bring leadership. Now, authority can bring, can I tell you what to do? Yes, authority brings that. Authority brings direction because I can tell you what to do, but authority does not bring leadership.
Wow.
Comments, questions? I wanted to remember that as we go through this class, that Christ was a servant leader, not because of authority. Not because of authority. Now, did he have authority? Yes. Did he use that authority from time to time? Yes. but that was not his style. And the authority came from the people, not from him. When he was teaching, they say he teaches as if he's someone in authority. That's what the crowd said. Okay.
And Pastor, why was that so? Was it because he was being instructive? Was it because he was being dismissive of maybe traditions? But why did they point to the fact that he was teaching as someone with authority?
Because he was teaching like he knew what he was talking about. That he knew. He knew that he knew that he knew. It wasn't, I think, it was something that resonated within their heart.
Mhm.
That's why, I think. And so back to what I said earlier, is that when someone sits in the room and they say nothing, very little, and then when they finally say something, people listen. People listen because they are accepting them as an authority on whatever's being said. That's why they're listening. We heard everybody else, but they don't know what they're talking about. But this person, they know what they're talking about. So let's pay attention to them.
Sir,
Yes,
I have a question now. Which
yes.
kind of authority was Jesus? Which kind of authority was Jesus talking about? He said to the police that all authority is given unto me from heaven. That go and
I'm sorry, you're cutting out. I couldn't hear it.
I mean, you've just said that Christ was a servant leader from the perspective that the fact that he was a servant leader, he did not use his position authoritatively, maybe to
Yes,
maybe to command things, but you said that people should give you the authority.
yes.
Now my question is when Christ said that all authority has been given unto me, which authority was he referring to?
The authority from God. The authority from God.
Yeah,
But he also,
yes,
but God also, I mean, Christ also gave that authority to the disciples.
yeah, sure.
But again, it was not to rule. Okay, they were still to be a servant, using that authority to serve.
All right, I get it now.
Okay, good. All right. Now, we're gonna finish up here with something called ego. 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 Ego, E-G-O. E-G-O. Ego means, what is ego anyway? Someone tell me, what is ego before I say it? What is ego?
A sense of pride, a sense of self-worth.
Okay. All righty. Now let me add what the author talks about ego. The author says ego is edging God out.
It's what?
Edging God out.
Mhm.
Okay, let me stop the screen here a minute. Let me share the screen again. And let me do a whiteboard here and see if I can put this up here. Can everyone see that?
Yes, sir.
Edging God out. Edging God out. The writer suggests that whenever we let our ego get in the way, we're putting God out. And that is the ego is the worst thing that or one of the worst things that a so-called leader can have. And we're going to talk about that a little bit next week. But I want you to think about that. Think about the ways that a leader can allow ego to get in the way. And by doing that, they're edging God out. And you can read it too, because it's in the literature that I sent you. Questions on that? Questions on that? Edging God out. Any
So
questions?
so Pastor, the idea of ego is completely bad.
You asking me? I believe, this is just me. I believe that the less ego you have, the better off you are.
Mhm.
Now, does that mean that you shouldn't have any ego at all? I'm not gonna go that far, but I am going to stick with what I said earlier, that the less you have, the better off you are, usually.
What and if I may ask, what could be the positives of having an ego?
If you're using your ego as a saying that I am proud of being a servant of God, and I can do some things because of that. Because of my relationship with God, I have these gifts.
Mm.
I feel comfortable with these gifts that you may not have, but I have. I think that's probably okay. Because you're not putting yourself first, you're putting God first.
Mm.
If that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm very sorry, Pastor. I was just going to add that I think there's also an aspect of not letting the devil take away the essence of who you are in Christ, because the reality is, the idea of ego is being proud in a way, but my pride is in Christ, who I am in Christ. So I think if the ego and self-worth understanding of who you are, the identity is that I am who I am because of Christ. The old me is gone. Everything I am is Christ. Everything that I am doing, everything, my mind, my looks, my everything is to glorify the Lord. I believe that kind of understanding and worth, I believe is quite good, especially in the sake of establishing what the Lord has made you. But like you rightfully said, if it's leaning towards the old self and bringing authority to yourself, that I am who I am because I worked hard, I am who I am because I'm handsome or something, then I think that is not the right way. Thank you, Pastor.
Okay, yeah, we're on the same page. We're on the same page there. So we need to make sure that we understand that. So don't forget this, because you will see this again. Ego, edging God out is so think about what do we do that allows that to occur, that keeps us from being a good leader. or the leader we're supposed to be.
Mm.
Okay, any questions on that from anyone? Any questions from that? Anyone? Okay, let me get back to here where we were. Okay, so we're gonna prepare for next week by reading the week one, and basically it's about the heart. It's about the heart. Okay? And understanding the relationship the heart has to a good leader. Okay. Any questions? Okay, then again, please come prepared to talk about EGO, edging God out. And if you feel comfortable enough to talk about yourself, when you talk about that, that's okay. This is a small group, you know, and so if you feel comfortable, but if you're not, that's okay too. All right, let's look at the last thing with EGO, edging God out. Number 12. Three things that deals with edging God out. Okay. Let's see. Brother Perry, can you read number 1? Can you see that?
I'm very
Oh, I'm
Pastor
sorry.
Joe,
I'm sorry. You don't have the glasses. Enoch, can you read that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. It says, we edge God out as the object of our worship when we put something else in God's place. What?
Okay.
Oh,
Continue.
what are other objects of worship? Answers may include job, prestige, TV, relationship, etc.
Okay. B.
How do we edge God out? How does it happen? All at once or over time?
Okay. So think about that during the week. We talk about things we do to edge God out. Okay. All right. Brother Karen,
Yes, sir.
can you read 2, please? Brother
2
Karen.
says, it says, we edge God out when we trust in something other than the character and unconditional love of God as our security and self-worth. Part A says, what are other sources for our security and self-worth? Answers may include job, finances, health, among others. Part B says, why do we think these things are important? And C, how long will they last? What can remove them?
Okay. And someone to read 3, please. Francis.
Okay, can I be heard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We edge God out when we put others in his place as our audience and authority over our daily work and life story. A. How do we put others in God's place as our audience and authority? B. Who do we put as our audience or authority? And C. How can we restore God to his rightful place as our audience and authority? What will that do to our other relationships?
Okay. So those are 3 kinds of questions that we can ask ourselves during the week to prepare for the lesson for next week. We're talking about edging God out. We'll begin with this. Because you cannot be a good servant leader if you allow these things to get in the way. Okay? Any questions? All righty. And don't forget to memorize one of the verses, please. Don't forget to memorize one of the verses. Okay. Is that it? Is there anything else before we call it an evening?